Real estate red flags. So I'm going to be talking about this subject from a transaction coordinator's perspective and just what I've endured and witnessed and was shocked at that I endured in my 20 plus year career of working in the real estate industry, as well as probably exhibiting my own red flags over the years that I've since learned from. But what I have realized in this industry is that a lot of people don't really know what they're doing. You get the license, you get the titles, you pay your dues financially, and all of a sudden you're the ish. You think you're the top gun. And go back to my other video where I talk about how TCing made me a better entrepreneur. I feel like some of you can benefit from that video, but humility, it's just a lack of humility has been something that I've realized is a red flag. I'm all about confidence. I'm all about good self-esteem, loving thyself for sure. But when it comes to how you treat other people and not seeing them as equal, whether it's the front desk person, the office manager, if you're just coming in there throwing tantrums all the time and not dealing with your own personal anger issues, that's a red flag. I used to work at an office, and this one realtor, top producer, grown, probably late 30s, early 40s, my age now, which I would see him coming in there and he would just pout, literally stomping his feet throughout the office and just slamming the phone, cussing people out all day and just complaining and making a scene in the office. And you would think I'm calling him the red flag. It truly was the management that I saw as the red flag. Like, I understand he's an independent contractor. I understand that he is a top producer, so he's bringing in a lot of money for this company. But he's making everyone else uncomfortable, and he's making this environment feel unsafe, unwelcomed, uncomfortable. And as management ownership, you're just going to allow this behavior? What does that send to your employees, that they value the money more than the actual person? And that's kind of what started the process, whether I realized it or not, and started to plant the seeds of me wanting to be self-employed, or at least get out of that company, because they just allowed, I don't even have the words, but if you were there at that time, if you know, you know. But I think not having humility is one, but also management. When you're working at a real estate office or any office, if you happen to stumble upon this video and you work in the medical field, food industry, whatever the case may be, management needs to step it up and advocate for their culture, their office environment, because that feeds into how other people are going to perform and approach and build community and network. But if you have someone on your team that is a dread, that is always angry, that is cussing people out, that is arrogant, that's an a-hole, and it doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. I'm pretty sure they have their own history of whatever they went on in their life. But if the person that is struggling the most and feels intimidated to come to you and to ask for help, it just ruins the culture. So if you're working in real estate and you come across people like that, report them. You can try to have a conversation with them as well, but unfortunately, people like that do exist. And although it is a red flag, there are ways that we can mitigate some of that energy. And I have found that working in offices that don't advocate for their staff, their other realtors that are more concerned about money, are all red flags. So I'm going to list 7. I probably already listed 5 in those 2 just in those two statements, because it really does mess with the culture, the energy, and just the flow of things. And it's not to say that everything has to be positive vibes and good vibes and toxic positivity. No, no, no. I'm not saying any of that, because I think some offices need to have that grit, that drive, that dog in people that really elevates everyone to the next level. But at the same time, you don't have to be a jerk about it. People like that exist, and you can armor yourself to stand up to them, to ignore them, to keep it moving. I got to a point where I just would ignore him and go on about my day. And I was like, well, if management doesn't want to do anything about it, I can only worry about me and go from there. But other red flags I would definitely say is just a lack of communication. Like with this person, he was communicating a little too harshly. But then you have other realtors that don't communicate at all. They think that escrow will talk on their behalf, that their TC or their assistant will work on their behalf, that outsourcing everything takes them off the hook. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. You need to do your part. If anything, you're probably the leader facilitating this entire transaction. And if you're not available to communicate, to follow up, to meet deadlines, to transact, then things are going to fall apart. I have had transactions where the other realtor just fell off of the face of the earth, or I would talk to my realtor and be like, have you heard from this person? They'd be like, no. Or maybe my realtor has gone ghost. I know early on in my career as a TC, I wasn't ghost, but I wasn't good at following up with emails. So I could see it from both sides, and I understand where you just haven't built the muscle memory or the habits to follow up on emails, but to do it with every transaction is definitely a red flag. As well as realtors that want to rush through the process and not help their clients fill out questionnaires correctly, not giving them the answers, but to help them figure that, out DocuSign, making sure that the vesting and the names on title are correct. I've worked with realtors in the past that have skipped so many steps just to prove that everything is a quick turnaround. And then when things go wrong, they blame the TC. I did not like that. I've parted ways with many realtors over my 7+ year career being self-employed. And I've worked with many people when I was at my 9-to-5 for almost 15 years. And I've seen so many different personalities that you start to understand like who you mesh with, who you align with, and you develop a stronger sense of your character, as well as business acumen, as well as just overall courage to stand up to these people and say no. I remember the first client I turned down because she disrespected my office hours. I said, I work from 9 to 5. I am the TC that closes shop at 5, unless it's an emergency, something's urgent and pressing. I will always open up my time, unless I'm in the middle of my own emergencies, but I'll always open up my time for that. And she just disregarded everything. She always was pointing fingers at me, blaming me for things and complaining to people that I've worked with in the past. It's like, you don't have to do all that. I'm here, but at the same time, you're not respecting my boundaries and what I'm in my business. So I parted ways, and after that, I felt so empowered. After I said, no, this is it. I'm drawing the line. I'm letting this person go. And that was the first time I ever fired someone. Even though it was via email, there was something empowering about finally taking that step that elevated me and made me a better entrepreneur and made me realize, like, no, these are the red flags and the green flags that I need to be aware of when I'm running my business. And this is how I need to communicate. This is how I need to go about making these changes and making these adjustments, because it's going to happen. And I mean, there are so many other red flags that we can cover. Like, my favorite is not getting paid, and realtors that will avoid paying you. I didn't really experience it too much, but I did get a taste of it early on, where it was just getting dragged out, or I was being avoided, or they were too busy. And that's when you really have to advocate for yourself. And I really do think it's a red flag when they're hunting you down and did you get my email? Did you get my text? Calling you at different times of the day. And then when it's time to pay you, they're nowhere to be found. That is definitely a red flag. Or when you say my fee is $500 and they try to lowball you and say, well, can I just pay you $200? No, you can't. And that may not be a red flag, but to me, I consider it a red flag, because if they're going to not appreciate your value or know your worth, then they're not someone that you should be working with. So I'm going to leave that at that and close up this conversation for now, but I will open it up in future conversations and possibly on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. But I wanted to just, let me know in the comments what some of your real estate red flags are, because I was just speaking from the dome, and I really know that there are so many more that I haven't even experienced or witnessed, and I would love to hear your stories. So let me know in the comments some of your red flags, and we'll go from there. I think my next video will be real estate green flags. We don't talk about the good stuff that happens. It's always about the bad stuff. So, because I didn't even get into the lying, the scamming, the cheating. Like, there's a lot that goes down. You could just type in real estate horror stories, nightmares, and scam and all that, and it's all there. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thank you for watching. My name is Lillian Hernandez. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And until the next video, care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon. And don't forget to check out my other content here, as well as double tap my smiley face so you can subscribe if you haven't already done so.